Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about full stack development and why I picked it. So let's get into it. So the question was, sorry, I'm not sure if you have answered this. What made you become a full stack developer instead of staying with something like Java for work? Well, in my case, it's a bit different probably from most people, but the main reason why people usually go into full stack development as opposed to becoming a specialist is because there's a broader range of things that you can do, which makes you more applicable. You become more applicable for more jobs. And then, of course, there are people like myself who just enjoy it, just wants to learn all the things and so forth, and that's pretty much at least my personal answer. So I started with Java development when I went to school. Well, I had a lot of back-end languages that I used for different courses and stuff like that because I went to a few schools. But in essence, I started with Java, and then I very quickly realized that in order to do effective web, you pretty much need to know JavaScript, and then I went into JavaScript and Node and so forth, and it kind of took off from there. I've spent more time, I think, working with JavaScript than I've worked with any other language, kind of organically, so it kind of came from that, if that makes sense. The thing that is might be different, it depends on the person. When it comes to me, at the very least, is that I have a ambition, and my ambition is to become what I call the universal programmer. And that basically means, at least to me, that I know what I need to know to basically build anything that I want, regardless of what that is and regardless of complexity level practically. And so learning like the entire web stack was kind of a given from day one for me, because I truly enjoy software development and like programming and building computer programs and stuff like that. It's of course not just exclusive to that thing, it's just that most of the stuff that I do is related to coding. I find it so enjoyable that I can't get enough of it. I just want to learn more and more and more, and the only thing that actually limits me at this point is that I don't have enough time to do all of it. Like I have physical limitation. I get to the point where I'm physically limited. I actually have to rest and things like that because otherwise I won't be able to continue, right? And so for me, software development is more than a job, if that makes sense. It's much more than that. It's something that I do in my spare time, just as I do it for work purposes, and I'm not really interested in money or recognition or social status or whatever might come. I mean, there are many people who do this as a job, and that's perfectly fine. For me, it's different. As I like to say, my only ambition is to be as good as I can possibly become, and there are many. That's sort of the answer right there. I know that I put a lot of pressure on my managers that I've had in different jobs, basically stating to them that by my calculation, on average, they will be able to keep me motivated and interested in a completely new role for about 2 years tops. If it's completely new, I've never done it before. If it's less like a completely new thing and more something I've done before, then there's really not much they can give me, because that's the curse of becoming more experienced. The more experienced you get, the faster you're learning, and at some point you're going to reach a point where you can practically not find an employer who will be able to sustain like a continuous learning process for you without you taking on like a behemoth type of task, and that has been my, at the very least, biggest challenge as a software developer. After, of course, I learned the basics and know how to program and like all that good stuff, right? So today I have a few paths open to me. The one I'm working on right now is probably the one that it's probably the most sustainable one, at least from a professional perspective, because right now I've run teams before, so now I run a team, and they want me to do even more than that. They want me not just to run the team; they want me to basically found a new or like a completely new division within a company, and then it's very likely that it's going to be my main responsibility to aggregate like an entire ecosystem of different services and systems, and basically becoming like not just an architect, like an enterprise level architect, where most of what I do is down to everything from system design to code quality to overseeing like the success of the entire division, like an entire, like it's not a team, it is a team of teams, like tons and tons of different projects, which is the enterprise thing or enterprise architect type of thing, right? So that's going to be very interesting for me. In my private time, I work on side projects. I have one that's been a bit long spanning now, where the ambition is basically to create a, well, it's a best way to describe it is it's a fantasy world content management system, where basically I'm going very heavily into machine learning algorithms and things like that to basically generate characters, like non-player characters, for these sorts of like role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, where the goal there is basically to create a system which well, it's actually very simple. It just creates content. It generates either through randomness or like machine learning algorithms or like things like that. Everything from personalities to family backgrounds to history to all of this good stuff, right? And that kind of started out as just a side project that I made for a few friends of mine and myself who we were playing together at the time. And then I realized that this could be a very good project for me to really explore both my own thinking and perceptions around, what components make up a person or like an individual within a story format or something like that, and then at the same time get to build something that forces me to grow within my machine learning and AI experience, and at the same time actually probably face off against a few very interesting questions related to, well, not existence per se, but I hope you understand, like how does one actually create how do you create good stories, and is there a way for you to actually generate large amounts of data, like completely fictional data, and then tie that together to create a fictional world that can be used in order to create like storybooks or role-playing games or whatever, right? So that's one part of it, and then I do self-studies. I have like corporate accounts towards like operations, things like that. So when I say that I'm after the universal programmer thing, it's really down to just there's no, how do I put this in a good way? Like there's no reason for you to do all of this stuff for professional purposes. It would make no sense, because I'm not gonna, I get paid the same amount as the people that don't do this stuff. It's really just for my sake. So that's why I tell you that for most people who go into full stack development, it's not about like building up this entire portfolio of experiences and building all of this stuff that I'm after to become like as good as I can be and so forth. It's really down to that you like to work in the entire stack, or that you are trying to get some type of extra compensation or be more applicable for jobs or things like that. So what I want you to take away from this is that, well, the reason why at least I decided to become a full stack developer instead of just being a front-end developer or just being a back-end developer is because my interest in software development goes way beyond well, I would suspect what most people would be interested in. There's very little in software development that I don't find interesting. It's really down to I don't have time, or like I don't feel a strong incentive to build certain things. Today I still feel like it's a little bit sad, because I would want to get further down into robotics and IoT type of stuff. I just don't have the energy to, like, I don't have an inspiring product at this moment, so I spend most of my time building things with machine learning algorithms, or rather building like these side projects. A lot of focus right now, for both for personal reasons and professional reasons, on operations and things like that, because that's something that is not just a good investment for my personal ambition, it's also a career-wise very good ambition. And then professionally, I try to position myself in roles where I get to face off against greater and greater challenges. And now I'm getting very close to being at like the highest levels of basically the highest level there is, a part right under like being the CTO of an entire corporation. But I don't really think that that's my sort of thing, because I'm not much for the pure politics of architecture and things like that, and engineering. I prefer to be hands-on, and in the current role that I have and the thing that I'm going to do next, it's very likely that I'm going to find a nice hybrid where I can leverage my experiences, help out a company, or like in this case it's a gigantic corporation, with structuring things and leading teams and things like that, and overseeing large projects. That's me, but for most people, full stack development is really about a little bit of personal interest, that you find both sides of the stack or like the whole thing interesting, or it's for professional reasons usually, because if you're just a backend developer or just a front-end developer, you are less likely to find positions that fit you. That's really what it comes down to. Have a great day.